The CP lie, recession denial, credit tightening, the China spy balloon, getting rid of the debt ceiling, how all of this stuff could affect our crypto market, plus a breakdown of all the charts with an update on the Bitcoin, the DXY, and S&P 500 charts. Let's jump straight in and talk crypto. What is up, everyone? It is I, Carlton Flowers, your Crypto Pro.
Yay!
And we've got some interesting topics in the news today. I haven't done a news update in quite some time, and I wanted to give some of my reflections, thoughts, and input on some of the recent things that are happening in the news. And then after we get done with that, we're going to jump into all the charts and update you on what things are looking like since our last couple of BTC updates. So first and foremost, none of this is financial advice. Please take everything as a grain of salt, as entertainment purposes only, and don't use this to make investment decisions. First things first, the CP lie. I call it the CP lie. The CPI is what it's actually called, or the Consumer Price Index. And the reason why I call it the CP lie is because our government is lying to us, and we all accept it. The CP lie doesn't include things like the cost of gasoline, the cost of our eggs, grocery store items. The things that are surging the most don't go into the formula. And so after they pull that out, they can present this big fat lie to us on a silver platter and say, look, the CPI is going down. Inflation is coming down. It's looking pretty good. And then we all eat that up. Oh, great. It's going down. We're fine. Things are fantastic. And then we turn right around and we post on Facebook how angry we are that eggs cost $9 a dozen. It's pretty funny if you ask me. But because we have people who will accept the claptrap that comes out of the mouths of our political leaders as truth, because they have us as a puppet on strings and they control our minds, they can say anything they want. And then we just lap it right up like a dog lapping up water. But I'm not fooled. Okay, recession denial. I'm so tired of this recession denial. We've got the same folks that serve us the CP lie that are telling us that we're not yet in a recession, or that if we have a recession, it won't be too bad and it won't last long. Well, all of that is a big fat lie because we're already in a recession. We're already seeing the effects of the recession. And what are they going to do to supposedly pull us out of a recession? They're going to print more money as soon as they solve this issue with the debt ceiling, but we'll set that aside and get to that later. So as the recession drones on, how deep is it going to go? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to continue lying to us about the CPI. The feds are going to continue their dovishness with these baby 25-point basis hike increases. We're going to pay $10, $11, $12 a dozen for eggs. We're going to watch our gas prices go up, and then we'll all be out there spending money like madmen, mad women, thinking that the recession is not going to happen. So we'll continue dumping our money into the stock market and the crypto market, which will drive it up and then satisfy us with the CP lie. We'll continue to believe it because the stock market continues to go up. It's kind of interesting when you think about it. And then on top of that, as it relates to the U.S. default that could be coming up in June if we don't figure it out, the more money we print, the higher the stock market and crypto will go. We think that we're making all this money in crypto. Well, we're not. All we're doing is dumping more money into the market, which turns around and gets put into investments, into speculative investments, which drives up the demand and increases the price. So consider this. Say when Bitcoin is, let's say Bitcoin's at 20,000 and eggs are at $3 a dozen. But then Bitcoin surges to 40,000 and you think, oh man, we're getting rich. But eggs shoot up to $5 a dozen. Are you really making money on your Bitcoin? And is Bitcoin's valuation really going up? Or is it a balancing act? Is it a giveaway and takeaway as we decimate the value of the dollar by printing it to oblivion, which makes that Bitcoin price rise? Just think about that. Something to think about. Now, at this moment, the U.S. Congress is deadlocked, and we can't come to an agreement on raising the debt ceiling. Now, why do we even have to raise the debt ceiling? Well, it's because we serve up the world with fake money, which basically is saying, you guys keep working hard and we'll buy your stuff with our fake money because all we're going to do is print it and pay you so we can continue buying that oil and buying stuff from China and buying things from the world markets. And now we're having this fight where we're not increasing the debt ceiling. If they don't come to an agreement, we'll have a default in June, which will probably not happen. But while this is looming overhead, we've had talks in Congress of getting rid of the debt ceiling. Some are saying, why do we even have this discussion every year? Because we should continue to serve up money and meet our obligations with the illegal printing of money. We're going to keep meeting our obligations by cranking out the printer and making trillions of new dollars and dumping it into the markets. So why even have a debt ceiling? Well, the Republicans say that we've got to make sure we're not living beyond our means and we need to make the discussions on what we're going to spend our fake money with. At what point is the world going to wise up and say, we're tired of you printing fake money while we do all the work? One of these days, the people in Bangladesh are going to be sick of working for 50 cents an hour to be paid with fake money from the U.S. But at least we see a trend where manufacturing is coming back to the U.S. We have plans for our own chip plant in the United States, which is great. And we're seeing certain things that haven't been produced in the U.S. finally coming back to this side of the world, which is great because that means that U.S. people will be going to work. And that's what we need to do. We need to do our part. And that has been reported in the jobs market because the recent jobs report was positive. There's people working, more people working, which means more money being made, which also means there's more people going to be spending money, which will drive up inflation. And as we drive up the inflation and more people have their jobs and they're spending their paychecks on eggs, the egg price is going to continue to go up. And the feds aren't going to include that into the CPI, and they'll continue to tell us that inflation is going down. Same thing with gas. Don't say I didn't tell you so. The spy balloon has everybody in an uproar as the U.S. government has chosen to shoot down the spy balloon as it left the coast, the East Coast. And it's interesting because the president of the United States said he wanted to shoot it down the minute it started flying over U.S. soil. Now, do I think it's just a weather balloon? No. If it was just a weather balloon, why did they fly it over some of the most major bases, installations, where we have nuclear missiles and army bases, Air Force bases? We had people here in Missouri posted on Facebook like crazy as we saw it with our own eyes. Now, if you don't know, Missouri is where the majority of the nuclear missiles are siloed. It is also where the bombers, the stealth bombers, are located. at Whiteman Air Force Base. This is the epicenter of the military of the United States, and that spy balloon just so happened to conveniently float right over our heads for several days. Now, if it's just a weather balloon, it's funny how they just needed to know the weather where the United States has its biggest concentration of military. So they blew that sucker out of the sky, which they should have, because it's ridiculous that the Chinese think we're that stupid that we don't know what they're doing, getting better close-up pictures for their intelligence. Now, the Bank of America CEO Moynihan, I forgot his first name, he says that, well, it's not something we really need to worry about. It did raise tensions, but we know that we don't want to raise tensions to the point where it disrupts our global supply chain, because China makes all of the stuff that we want. We want our cheap TVs. We want our cheap iPhones and all of our electronics. We want China to keep making it. So do you think that they're really going to escalate this? People here in this country are posting all over Facebook thinking World War III has started. World War III ain't going to start. As long as you guys continue to flock into Walmart to get your cheap TVs, we're not going to go to war with China. So I would have to agree with the Bank of America CEO when he says that we're only going to let this tension go so high, because if we disrupt the global supply chain to the point where China wants to cut us off or go to war, it's going to have massive, massive fallout, and that's not going to happen. Last but not least, on the front of central bank digital currencies, over in Great Britain, they are putting out their British pound that they're going to call Britcoin, which is so dumb. And they're putting a savings limit, a holding limit on their CBDC. So they're saying that if you've got $25,000 worth, they're not going to let you hold that for longer than a certain period of time. They're going to force you to spend it or lose it. If that ain't totalitarian, I don't know what is. Now, the United States is threatening to do a CBDC, but I don't think it's going to work out because of two things. Number one, a CBDC does not increase in value, and people have the ability to buy crypto and watch it increase in value. And number two, no one is going to use a US CBDC because they can allow limits on it for savings, and they can force you to spend it on what they want. So it's, unless we ban crypto, a United States CBDC to me is not a real threat. Well, that's all that's happening in the news. Let's jump over to some technical analysis where we will look at the DXY chart, the S&P 500, the Dow, and then we'll talk about this weekly death cross that has popped up on Bitcoin. To the charts we go. All right, gang, here we are back on the charts, and we are going to start out with some of the markets. We're going to look at the DJI first on the one-day chart, where we can see a very nice romp that the Dow Jones went on over the past few weeks. But notice how we're creating some lower lows. We've got this high point here that actually was a higher high. The bullishness of this market is just ridiculous. But then we've got 1, 2, 3 touch points that look like we've got some resistance overhead, while we have a stochastic crossover and a flip where it's trying to fight its way up here. But will it hold or will it fall? Well, let's just pop over to the 1 week, and it looks like overall we're going to be going down. And this downtrend line here that was broken, we have a consolidation here, but with this oversold condition on the stochastic, I think we're going to see the Dow cool off and come back down, because the Feds certainly want to cool off this market as they're trying to get inflation under control. All right, let's look at the S&P 500. This is a new chart. I have not covered it before, but now we're going to start considering it because it is very important as it relates to Bitcoin. So we can see an overall downtrend that was going on, and we broke that downtrend right here, and this is the 1 week chart. But is it going to hold? We're right at this huge peak volume node on the VPVR, but it looks like with the stochastic way up here in overbought, we're probably due for a correction. So let's keep our eyes on this and then see if we hold the 200 EMA, because if that doesn't hold, we're going to go south. And at some point, I'm thinking these markets are going to have a nasty correction. Here's the DXY. I talked about this in a blog post, and I will link it in the description. And in my blog post, I said, is the DXY giving us hints that we are about to see a surge where Bitcoin gets wrecked? Well, you can't deny this, folks. Look at this. We're coming up out of oversold territory. We had a crossover, and it looks like that stochastic is wanting to point up, and we have a crossover about to happen here on the MACD oscillators, and plus the histogram is printing light red bars, which means our momentum is about to move up. So if anything, we have touched on the 50 EMA, we rejected down, we might crawl back down just a little bit, but from these momentum indicators, I'm thinking that we might see the pivot and a surge back to the bullishness, especially as we continue to spend and dump money into the markets. Once they get the debt ceiling figured out, I bet you the dollar is going to have a heyday. All right, so that's our DXY, and we know that if the dollar shoots up, it's going to have a counteractive effect on the Bitcoin price. Now, let's just look at Bitcoin starting with the 4-hour, and then we'll just move on from there. So with the 4-hour chart, we see that we've rolled over on the stochastic. We're still printing these continuous lower high peaks on the oscillators with the MACD because of this long period of consolidation. What's going to happen? Are we going to bounce out of this bullish or bearish? I don't know. It's still too early to call. So we're going to have to watch this. Now let's move on to the 1-day chart that actually kind of looks bullish, because we see that, as we talked about in the last video, the stochastic came all the way down here, but price stayed solid in this consolidation range. And when that happens, it looks like we're coiling up to have a big break to the upside. But as we looked like the fast line is trying to curl over and maybe cross over, we can't trust it just yet, because downstairs on the MACD, we have a bearish cross and we have a divergent set of oscillators, and we're printing solid red on the histogram. Mixed signals. Which way will it go? I don't know. This is a 50-50 shot, and we need to look at the 1-week chart to know, hey, what are we looking at in the big picture? Well, there's a nasty crossover that happened on the stochastic right there. And everyone is talking about this crossover about to happen between the 50 and the 200 EMA. This is a possible death cross that we've never seen happen in the history of Bitcoin. And I can guarantee you that if we have a death cross that follows through and it doesn't glance off where the 50 shoots back up, we are going to drop down and test the red dashed line. Shout out to South North, because he caught me on that last video. I forgot to put in the scary music track. I was so mad when he posted that and said, "You forgot to put the music on the red dash line." I'm like, oh man, daggone it. So that was for you, South North. Okay, so if we get this crossover that completes here, we're going to start to drop down and maybe cycle down for a full stochastic cycle. But that's not guaranteed, because as we see, sometimes we stay oversold. Sometimes we stay in the overbought and we get head fakes and we move back up. So if this dares to cross over bearish and then flop over and cross over bullish, we've got a chance that Bitcoin could jump up to this higher cluster here near 30,000. I know we hear everybody talking about 25. 25 is not a big deal to me. The only thing significant about 25 is it's sitting somewhere around that 200 EMA, okay? And we had a bounce up here that turned into resistance at around 25. That's our only significance. But the reason why I say that it's not that significant is because if we make it to 25, this volume cluster up here above 30 could pull the price up. But if we don't have a fake out and stay in overbought, then we're going to probably test that red dash line. And then there's a chance that we could discover these deep areas down here where this cluster is at the previous low centered around 15,000. And worst case scenario later on in the year, if it does play out, there's a possibility that we could jump down here to where the 618 golden retrace is at around 11,000. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Does it mean that it's going to happen? No. I'm just saying that it's possible. Now, if we get to June and the feds are still screwing around and they don't get the Congress, rather, if they don't get the debt ceiling figured out, we could have a cataclysmic event. That could be a black swan that could drop us down. And there are several other things that could happen. But for now, I am kind of thinking that we're going to stay in this little consolidation here and then more than likely either entertain this area that we've been to before for quite a while, or jump back up into this area where we entertain the 30,000 number. If we go to 30,000 though, I'm thinking we're going to have one last kaputski before we enter into the real bull market. This cycle I don't think is completed. I think 2023 is going to break a lot of hearts. Now, I have a lot more that I want to get into, and I'm going to have to push it to another video. But I'm glad to have you all here, and I would love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to the CrypoPro channel. And if you would like to help to support this channel and help me defray the high costs of producing these videos, you can do so with the use of a super thanks. And I thank you in advance for that, just like my man South North. Woo! Boom! $10 super thanks from South North from yesterday. Why am I stuttering so much? I can't talk. Thank you, South North, my brother, for that $10 super thanks. And to answer your question, I will talk about all of the projects that I am swing trading and investing in on the next video, since this one has gone so long. So I will work for that. Also, quick shout out to Sarah on the 5th of February with the super thanks of $4.99. That was over on my VV video, and I will shout you out again when I do my next update of the grails and looking at the charts on the VV NFTs. That's all I got, folks. Thanks for being here. Post your comments below. Let's chat about this crazy market. And until next time, I'm out.